Okay, hello. I thought I'd make a video for this release because it's a breaking breaking release. But first of all, I'm still trying to get my feet back on the ground with open source stuff. Yesterday I was actually down at Work, which is like a co-working space here where I live. And I haven't done that since pre-corona times. Well, it's still corona times. Probably will be for some time, but at least I can get out of the house, and that's important for me to focus on going through issues and getting my head around where the project's well, in this case Overmind, where the project is at. So yeah, I spent a few hours yesterday there, and I realized that the way I've been doing issues was completely wrong. I shouldn't read my emails, create a personal to-do list, and then add like the URL to the issue there. I should just go to the issue, give it a label, write a comment. I've seen it. I think maybe this is wrong. And then if I see that it's a critical thing, I'll immediately tag it with next release. That's a much better way to do it. Maybe it even encourages people with my comment of pointing out what is wrong. Maybe they'll go in and fix it themselves. Okay, but I did clean up a ton of stuff. There's like not that many issues. I got in some pull requests, and that's all good. Okay, so to the release. It's breaking release, as I said, version 24. And what makes it breaking is that I moved state charts into its own package. And the reason I did that is because I don't want it to be part of the core of Overmind, because it's such it's such a big feature, and also I hope it will help contributions when it's like its own place. Like there's just a single file, but when you look into the Overmind folder, it can be a bit overwhelming. But now it's like a single package. It has one file, and that should make it easier for people to contribute. And also Overmind got state machines after it got state charts, because I was learning about this stuff as I was implementing and got a lot of inspiration from XState, but I wanted to make it more approachable, which I think we managed to do with state charts. But then with state machines, I think we're making it even more approachable because they're more flexible. And I would state that they typically solve the things you want to solve with state charts. And it's a simpler concept, I think, personally. Yes. Another reason it was a breaking thing is, so I kind of put all the breaking stuff into this release. It's derived. Like with TypeScript, the latest TypeScript release, the derived typing didn't work anymore because of circular stuff, which is basically a good thing because now the typing in general in TypeScript is faster. But I ended up having to change the API, but it actually ended up being a good thing. So when you create a derived value now, let's look at the documentation, state derived. You have to import a derived function from Overmind, and then you use that to produce the right value. And now this function that is returned there is a special kind of function. It is like a derived function, which means that if you just insert a plain function, that function will behave as a normal function. So it's more like predictable. Like you don't have to learn about this special function concept. There's just a concept of a derived. So that's super nice. In terms of typing the derived, you have to do like inline typing. So as you can see here, we use the state to type the state argument. And then if you do like a nested thing, you see I have a nested derived here called shouted foo, which I point to here, nested. And then if you want to use the root state, you can import the root state from Overmind, or you will import it from your explicit typing. Yes, and this solves the It solves the circular dependency thing. And it also allows you to like put the derived outside somewhere and then just import it. I removed the derived type itself, so you have to refactor this now. But hopefully it won't be too much work. I refactored it at Code Sandbox, and it was a quick fix. So yeah, that's how it works. And then we actually have Svelte support now. There's a package called Overmind-Svelte. I don't have the documentation yet because I haven't talked to the person who did this, which actually he did an amazing job. Because it's using a mixins concept, which I can't find in the documentation of Svelte. I haven't used Svelte before. So the documentation is coming there very shortly. But it looks really nice, and it integrates really nice. And then the state machines has changed. So now it's not just a state value where you have like a transition state. It's actually a wrapper around state. So for example, here we can see that I'm actually creating a state machine out of like the root namespace or some other namespace. And then I'm saying these are the transition states of this state machine. And then these are the transition states you can move into. So when you're unauthenticated, you can only move into the authenticated state, transition state. And then I define the actual state. So an overloaded term here is the term state. And when you're using a state machine, you're actually creating state, but the state has state in itself. So based on the transition state, you have access to different state values. So typically when you use this, you don't like write state.state, you do the structuring and stuff. But there's really no other good term for this, I think. So the way I think about it is it's the state of your state. So in this case, the state of the application is unauthenticated. And when you're unauthenticated, you don't have a user or an error or... well, you might have an error, sorry, but you don't have a user, for example, which we'll see more explicitly with the typing. But anyways, sorry, I'm going off track here. The way you use this is that these transitions, they guard the state. So for example, in a login flow, you might have a login action. And what you do here is first you try to transition into authenticating. And given that you're unauthenticated currently, this callback will actually run. But if you weren't in an unauthenticated state, that callback would never run. So that's what I mean by guarding. It just ensures that whatever logic you want to run or whatever state changes you want to make, you have to transition into them. So in this case, we are transitioning into the authenticating. It works just fine. It runs the logic, it grabs the user. And then to actually set the user, I need to first move into a state where that user should live, which is in the authenticated transition state. So I try to move into that first, and then I set the user. So what would happen here is that for some reason during me fetching the user, it might have transitioned into unauthenticated again for some reason. And that would mean that the user would actually never be set, which is exactly what we want. And this is how you have this kind of low-level API to manage how you actually produce logic or run logic and make state changes based on these transition states, which is exactly what state machines do. If you were to do state changes asynchronously here and stuff, you would get errors. So you get help to use these state machines correctly. And I really want to write more about this concept and how to use it effectively, because it's a very powerful concept, but it's not known to that many, like it's not a typical JavaScript thing. So there will be a lot more information on this as we move on. Okay, yeah, sorry. So in terms of TypeScript, state machine, what you do is, I have a little typo here, it should say states. So you basically express in these different transition states what other state is available. So when you're unauthenticated, you don't have any other state. When you're authenticated, you have a user, and so on. And the point is that when you use TypeScript and you try to access some state, you first check what transition state are we in. So if we are in authenticated, this state will actually be typed with the user. So typically what happens in TypeScript is that you might type the user as a user or null, for example, or optionally you have a user, which means that every time you want to use the user, you have to explicitly check, is the user there or not? While when you have these transition states, you can just check that one state, and then everything will be typed correctly related to the state you're in. And it's just a much better way to do to handle state with TypeScript using state machines. Cool. Then yeah. So what's also kind of cool is that I worked a little bit on the dev tools. So sometimes I have a hard time prioritizing what I should work on and what I want to work on, and I have to work on what I want to work on, or I will get exhausted. So what I did is I tried to change a little bit around how you fire up and connect to the DevTools. So basically, now you click this thing up here and it gives you a status. It now allows you to run the application within the DevTools, which is an interesting concept, which I'm going to talk more about shortly. It's a little bit experimental right now, but I'm going to show it to you. And then you have the DevTool port. And I try to be more explicit about the DevTool port is what you connect to from your application, which previously has been a little bit confusing. So people have like tried to connect, like insert the port here to be the port of your application, or even connected like in Create Overmind using the port of the app that's running on the DevTool. So it's been some confusion there. So hopefully this will help to handle that. So I've started my app in the background and I'll just go to localhost 4000. And what happens now is that when I set this up, it expects me to work on my application from within the DevTools. So it runs the application in the background. And then you can see this is the Overmind website. I got my state here, and it also opens up the Chrome DevTools, because you typically want to have access to like whatever errors are thrown from it and stuff like that. And then I can go ahead and work on my code, but I'm only using the DevTool. So what's also been fixed here is that if I do like, if I open a query now, I can, I don't have to click this OK thing. I can just hold hello and command enter, and then it updates. You can also do, for example, is loading. You can now just write normal JavaScript, foobar. You don't have to write actual JSON. And the same goes for, where are we? Actions. So when I want to add some payload here, I can do that. And as you can see, whoop, there, it passes that in. So that's nice. You don't have to write actual JSON there. Cool. Yes, and then if you want to find state charts, you find them down here as a separate package. Yes. Okay, I hope all of this made sense. There will be a new release soon again. As you saw, I have some next release issues I'm going to work on. But okay, I guess that's it. Talk to you later. Bye bye.